Hello YouTube and welcome to lesson 41 of the Adobe Photoshop tutorial series. So today we're going to look at how to edit raw images inside of Photoshop. So inside the desktop over here you can see that I actually have the Canon sample raw. So I'm going to open that up with Photoshop. So raw images are something that you can shoot out of DSLR camera or some normal cameras these as well, and they contain the unprocessed information in a digital picture, so you can have wider editing option using tools like Photoshop or Lightroom, for example. So if you want to edit raw photos using Lightroom, then you can also check out my Lightroom crash course tutorial. It is already there on my channel playlist. So let me just open up Adobe Photoshop CC right here. And once I open that up, you can see that I am actually presented with a different window than when I would open a normal picture. So this is a raw image format for Canon EOS 7D, that's CR2 format, and here you can see that the white balance is at short, so I can change the temperature right here. Just move around the sliders before you open it up with Photoshop. So you can change the temperature as per your liking to have the correct lighting right there. You can change the tint, and you can see that the image is a bit dark, so you can decrease or increase the exposure for a better outlook. You can increase the contrast, and you can see that the details that you get with this is actually quite good. So you can also change around with the highlights. That's just the bright areas of the picture, so I can decrease the highlights, increase the shadows for more of a balanced look. You can see that the details are changing already, so you can increase the contrast over there. You can change the whites as well and decrease the blacks as well, just like this. You can also increase the clarity for sharpness or decrease the clarity for blurriness, so just increase the clarity right there. You can increase the vibrance. Vibrance is something that only affects the weak color, so let me increase the vibrance till I want it, and then decrease the saturation just like this, and increase the vibrance just over there. That's it. And just like this, you got the basic edit. You can also do further edit over here from the tone curve. If you want to just change the highlights and saturation just like this, you can you change the curves right here. You can just change the curves right here, or just do this from the sliders over here. So you can change it if you want to. So this is not very necessary if you don't want to do it. Sharpening is there, so if you want to make the picture sharp, you can increase the amount of sharpness. You can increase the amount of sharpness radius, detail levels, even luminance. All right. So if you want to reduce the noise, increase the noise reduction for luminance, details. So I really want to decrease the noise, and to decrease the noise I do want to zoom it in so that I know that it is actually being denoised right there. So over here you can see that there's a lot of noise, so I can increase the color noise details and the color details over there as well. So sharpening, I may want to reduce it because I want to reduce the amount of noise that it is creating. And you can see it does not need to be perfect. It just needs to have this amount of noise at the end. All right. So let me just go to fit in view right here so that I can see the whole images right there. So over here, you can even move around with the individual colors. So something that you see in an adjustment layer, it lets you control it right here. So you can change the amount of reds right there, change the yellow over there to change the entire color of the picture, change the greens, aquas, all right, to get the picture look that you want. You can even convert this to grayscale and change the saturation of individual colors over there. So if you were to increase the color of the greens, you can see that this is actually being affected right there. Increase the color and saturation of the yellows and so forth. So you can also go for luminance. You can increase the brightness level of the yellows just like this. You can see that. And then you can also convert this to grayscale. And the good thing about grayscale is that if you were to change the colors right here, you can see that it only affects those areas. So this is actually pretty good for black and white images. And if you want to actually edit black and white images, then I suggest that you actually shoot color images so that you have better editing option later on, just like here. So if you were to change the greens, you can let's say the aquas, blues, you can see that when I change the blues, it only affects the area that has the blues. So it has more color control even for black and white images. Alright, so let me just go back to color, just like this. And then over here is the highlights. So I can change the highlights of the color, increase the saturation. You can see that I can give it a blue feel, or also increase the shadows and increase it to give it new feel, just like this. So you can create the looks of the image as you want. And over here is the lens correction as well. So if you were to enable the lens correction, you can choose the lens that you took and it'll correct the images accordingly. So if you were to choose Canon EF 770 to 200 lens, then it'll correct the lens accordingly. And you can also change the distortion value manually to self-correct it if you do not have the lens listed over here. So over here is the color profile of that as well. So you can change the color profile of the lens, remove chromatic aberrations if you have such errors in your lens as well. And of course, there's the manual for distortion, horizontally, vertically, and so forth. If you were to just double click on the side tabs, then it'll go back to the main position just like that. So if you were to go into effects, you can actually add in the amount of grain now and increase the size of the grain. So you can actually add noise to make it look as if it is an old photo. And you can also use these amounts to actually create a vignette in your photograph, as you see, as a common effect. So I do not want any one of those, so I'm just going to double click so that it goes back into default position just like that. And in the camera calibration, you can change the type of colors that you want to select. So camera standard or Adobe standard is the color profile that you may want to use. So you can also use different technologies to process the camera. So whatever the camera does inside the camera when you shoot the picture, raw photo actually allows you to develop the photos just like you would on a Lightroom. So you can change the shadows, as you can see here. You can change the red primaries, you can change the saturation of the colors. Over here, you can change the green primary colors and so forth. So you can work with the primary colors to get the look you want. And there's presets as well if you want to work with the presets. Usually we don't want to use presets. So this is actually how you edit raw images inside of Photoshop. And as you can see that it gives much more control over traditional photo editing. So once you're done, so what you actually do is you open up images like this, and you can see that the raw is actually processed inside of Photoshop. So let me just open that. But be sure to have all of the settings done before you bring it out into Photoshop. And what I recommend for this is actually to use Adobe Photoshop Lightroom, which has better controls over raw photo editing. So you got the same sliders. I have the tutorial already made for it. You can view them up in the crash course section of my tutorial channel. So let me just open up the raw image again. Let me just close this out, right click and open it up with Adobe Photoshop itself. And then over here you can see that the information of the raw image is actually stored in this file right here. So the good thing about raw is that once you edit the raw file, it does not actually change the original image, but rather saves the information onto a separate file, so my original image stays untouched. So if I were to simply just delete this out and then open up my raw image, you can see that it actually goes back onto the original state just like this. So let me just open this image up as well. And then you can see that there's a huge difference in between those two pictures. So this is what my raw image looked like, and once I edited it using the raw image editor, you can see that there's a drastic change in the final output over here. And this does not have any quality loss, which is another great thing about raw images. So you can see that the details are all there. You can see that over here only the clock area is bright, but here everything else is bright. I just simply move down the sliders and balance out the whole picture. So if you want to create pictures for magazines, or if you want to have high quality pictures, then I largely suggest to use raw image file formats so that you can have professional output. So if I want to do further edit now, like liquify and so forth, then now I can actually use it through Photoshop. So let me just add in a filter over there. So let me just go to let's say filter gallery, and if I want to add further effects over here, then I can do that after I open it up from the raw photo editor. So I'm applying a water paper effect, so it applies this to the edited images that I have from the original raw image editor in Photoshop. And the raw image editor does not come up unless the raw file formats are selected inside of Adobe Photoshop. So as always, hope you guys learned something, And as always, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.